This podcast has not yet been rated for children or teens, or even non-disabled. Disabled supervision is advised. Hello, and thank you again for joining me for another episode of Disability Reality. My name is Melanie Waldman, and I'm your host. Today I'm on the road. It is officially April, which means it's Limb Difference Awareness Month. I've got my lucky I can't talk right now. I'm getting there. The body is bodying, and we're going to be taking it bit by bit. There were a lot of days of me being sick. I was on set yesterday, got an audition request. She is booked and blessed, and also trying to preserve herself and her energy. So with that in mind, I am going to keep this short, spirited, and light because I have a very special guest today that I want to introduce you to. Today's guest's name is Daisy Friedman, and Daisy is actually a friend of Jillian's, is a guest on her podcast. So if you want a little bit more of the Daisy lore, go ahead and check that episode out for me. But in the meantime, you're going to get to see us chat. This is actually filmed just before we went to Sundance and talk a little bit more in depth about the purpose behind her film called Unholy. It's a short film about being disabled and Jewish. So also happy almost Pesach to those who celebrate. It's almost time for Passover. Tis the season of spring. And I'm just so excited for you all to get to meet Daisy, period. She is only 21 years old and is a film finalist at Sundance Film Festival. Her film is just incredible, and it stars some really great talent, including Broadway's Danny Bernstein. If you're familiar with him, oh my goodness, so exciting. I loved this film. There are a lot of spoilers ahead, so brace yourself, but it is Real Abilities Weekend. I am so excited again for you to meet Daisy, and I'll see you guys on the flip side. Peace out.
Hi, Daisy. How are you today?
Hey, I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks. I'm so happy that we could meet to talk about your film. I absolutely loved watching it. As a fellow disabled Jewish girly, I related to many components within this. And then on top of that, having to go to family events. That is such a niche concept. So I definitely want to know more about what called you to tell this story.
So I am a triple organ transplant recipient. I had a liver, small intestine, pancreas transplant when I was 3, and I was on a feeding tube for some of my childhood. And I sort of started thinking as I got older and no longer had a feeding tube, but was still dealing with different issues as a result of being an intestinal transplant recipient, of how my family kind of reacted, and couldn't really calibrate around the fact that I was more healthy. And a lot of the dialogue in the film is direct quotes from my family. Truthfully, the list that the grandmother talks about having this list of all the foods that you want to eat one day. I did have that, and it is real, and it's in my basement somewhere.
Wow.
And my dad was like, "Do you want me to find it?" And I was like, "Please don't do that." But truthfully, even to this day, every single family event, my grandma says that same thing. Do you remember? And I'm like, yeah, I do. I was there. But also doesn't my family can talk about it in a weird roundabout way, but they don't actually know how to talk about it in a real way, and
Sure.
ask me any kind of real question, especially because it is easy to forget about, which is, I think, good and bad. I think there's a lot of nuance to that. Well, just sort of the strange nuances of all of that.
Yeah, I hear every single bit of that. I have been to family parties where I've been medicated and had to leave early, or have had to be the one to run to the bathroom, make sure that nobody notices, just so that I'm not bringing it up in conversation. So the fact that this was a short film, this was 20 minutes, I believe, to have 14. Okay. So yes, 14 minutes. And it was just so powerful, the dialogue too, between you and your caregiver, who was the father figure. My family was very tight knit. when I became disabled in Florida, when I live in New Jersey. So my family flew down, my core family, and there was a lot of talk about prayer. That was a huge thing in the concept of
Mm-hmm.
healing. So the Mishabera was with us the entire time. And on top of that, my mother grew up Catholic. So when I came
Mm-hmm.
to and was off of the medication, they said, just so you know, there is a group of nuns praying for you.
Crazy.
So watching
That's
your
crazy.
film
That's
brought
awesome.
that up for me. But the prayer over the head, just something in a short film has never made me cry so instantly and then like organically. It was just so beautiful to see. Were there any kind of conversations that you had with the actors? And was that your sister is the producer and
So
actress?
no, we wish.
Oh, okay.
We're just Jewish.
Been there.
No,
Been
but
there.
she's incredible. She has her own production company called Ser Nocturna. We met at NIFTY, which is the National Film Festival for Talented
Familiar.
Youth. Yes, it's truly my favorite festival. It's actually a lot of the times called like the Sundance of young people.
Oh,
It's an incredible networking event, and we like met. We really hit it off. I told her about the story, and then like kind of the rest was history. But yeah, sorry.
wow.
That's the
No,
question was.
how long ago was that Nifty Film Festival?
So I brought it up to them over a year ago. So Nifty 2023 was when it first started, but we shot in February of 2024.
Okay. Oh wow. So it was, yeah, within the last year. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
And was this the initial trajectory that you had in mind? Was I'm going to submit this to Sundance?
Well, yes, but no. Like, I mean, I submitted my first film to Sundance, which I think you might have seen, Abilities, if you were there last year. Yeah.
I was not. I have not seen it yet, but I
Oh,
need to.
yes, check it out.
I will.
But I submitted it and I wanted to submit again. I chatted with someone that I connected with who was like, yeah, I'll like talk to, I know one of the programmers, I'll like put in a good word. And like, I was like, that's great. But she was like, but I don't really know what that means. Like, I don't have much pull. Like, and she was like, I just know someone, but I don't have much pull. And I was like, yeah, I understand. And I never in a million years thought that this was going to be possible. And I am also one of the youngest directors, if not the youngest, there, which is really surreal. But I mean, it was the trajectory in the sense if I wanted it to be on the festival circuit, but
Yeah.
I know this festival circuit.
Wow. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Well, Mazel Tov. Dude,
Thank
Mazel
you.
Tov on that. That is
Thank you.
fantastic.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. So, and then is this your Sundance debut then?
Yes, this is my Sundance debut.
That's massive. Is your family excited about this? Does your family know about the story and the film?
Yeah, so they do. I've sort of been like releasing little tidbits like in brief, and then I showed it to them. And then I wrote a Hey Alma article about it that I was not planning on them seeing. And my grandma said, my travel agent sent me this article. And I was like, oh, I think it's been strange because I also don't think they're the most self-aware people. And I do not think that they saw themselves in it until I pointed it out. Like my grandma was like, that's a funny character. And I was like, isn't it? And
yes.
yeah, so it's been good. I hope it's created like internal conversation in the family that maybe I'm not super privy to.
Sure.
Yeah.
I've also been there as well. It's like, well, we've had conversations about you while you weren't in the room, and that's like
I'm
great.
Sure you are. I'm sure you
I didn't
did.
need to know that you talked about that, but thank you. But I think that it's such a good conversation starter. There's a lot in the characters that, again, I saw in my own family. And I loved the come here so that I don't have to make small talk with your grandmother. I wrote that quote down. Not that that is that person in my life specifically, but that comes up at family events is please stay with me so I don't have to fill in the blanks. And then on top of that, I loved the dynamic with the grandmother where all of a sudden at the dinner table when she's, and spoilers of course, but as she's eating the soup, there was something about the score that I wasn't expecting that I thought was so just juicy was that it turned into a little bit of a horror movie. There was
Yeah.
this fear that was instilled. Can you speak on that a little bit?
Totally, yeah. I mean, we really pulled inspiration from Shiva Baby. I
Yes.
I think Emma Seligman is really actually a genius, and I will say that on record. And I think there is a lot of fear. I think both internally and externally. Like, I think the internal fear is like, oh no, is it going to make me sick? And it does. And then the external pressure of like, but I'm going to do it anyway because everyone is staring at me, and just
Mhm.
sort of like I wanted to ramp up that feeling of anxiety and of like kind of horror, and also like I just said, like internal horror of like, oh my god, my body is like betraying me, but also like if I say no, everyone is going to be disappointed in me.
Mhm.
Um
Yeah,
so like
and the
kind yeah.
proximal distance of the grandmother, get your grandmother out of there, get your grandmother out of there, and she does not budge. Props to the grandmother actress because she didn't
She's
even
perfect.
flinch as
No.
that's coming in, and my eyes were on that corner of the screen the entire time. Because for me, that's what I would want is get her the F out of there. She does not
Yeah,
need to be there, period.
and the whole thing, and it's been so funny to hear people's reactions when she says like all you needed was some of grandma's soup and you're cured.
And
Like
says cured. Yeah.
cured. She says cured, which is intentional. That's intentional. I love a good disability theory.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I mean, I think that's a very big like cure complex
Yes.
in families. So I think that was interesting. And every single time, like I showed that to my dad, and he goes, "Oh," and I was like, "Yeah, that's the reaction. Like that's what I wanted."
Yes, yes, and I have been there too with families, seeing my pieces and it laying a little bit more intensely than maybe I had anticipated, of course, but it's
Oh
art
yeah,
at the end of the day.
totally.
And you were saying disability myths. I don't know if you knew this, but I teach yoga, so a lot of disability myth within the community is, oh no, you want me to do yoga? Like you think that's going to cure me? And it's like no, blah blah blah. But I understand the root of it is that we hear these certain things all the freaking time, and it's just so exhausting. And
Yeah,
especially when it comes from family, when they know that it's a trigger for us, it's just this other layer of internalized trauma that we are just dealing with now at the dinner table.
totally.
It's
Yeah,
literally served up for you. So I appreciate that in your
yeah,
work. You served it right up. Family trauma on a plate in a bowl of matzo ball-less
yeah. Here you
matzo
go.
ball soup.
Yes.
Just one matzo ball. I knew that that was coming. I was like, she's going to say
Oh
just one
yeah.
matzo ball. She's going to say it. I could feel it coming. And I think that it's so beautiful that chronic illness is now kind of in these non-visible or non-apparent disabilities are now coming to the forefront when it's been
Yeah.
just one type of disability or not being seen where it's put on as a costume and we are just kind of paraded in a certain way. Was that a
Yeah.
conversation that you had at all during the process of creating this?
Totally. So we really I came at this with the intention of casting someone who's a feeding tube user. Um really hard. Really, really, really hard. Cause I mean a lot of people who are current feeding tube users also are really sick. And
Mhm.
in an indie film and an indie short, you were doing 12-hour days. And like I'm really lucky to be in a position in my life right now where I can do that. And I got really sick after set. Like, and I knew that. But we kind of quickly decided that that wasn't going to be a good thing for us. And
Yeah.
I really racked my brain about it. And we brought on Olivia Nikkinen, who is the lead. She is phenomenal. And we had a lot of conversations. She's spent time as a caretaker for multiple of her family members,
Wow.
which was good for a good proximity for me. But the one story I really
Oh,
like to tell
yeah.
is so there's the shot of the tube, the feeding tube. And I was going to bring on my friend who was an accessibility coordinator who helped me with casting. She has a variety of chronic illnesses. She's on a feeding tube, and we were going to have her body double,
Oh,
but she
okay.
ended up in the hospital the weekend of shooting. And so I was sort of put in this position of, okay, we're either going to cut the shot or put it on Olivia, and neither of those feel good to me.
Mhm.
I like had a little come to Jesus moment with my producers, and I was like, I'm gonna do it. So the body you see is me. It's on my little scar where I used to have the same tube, which was a pretty surreal experience. It felt more comfortable than I would have liked it to.
Oh.
But Yeah, and it actually looked great because it already has the little, grooves,
It did.
and we were joking like, "Oh my god, like should we put a body double credit for me in the credits?" We didn't, but I like it was the way for us to go about it, in a way that made me feel good, and also like I I wanted to kind of like, not to be dramatic, but like put my body on the line for this film. Um
Oh, I love that though. That's still,
yeah,
and it is something that we talk about a lot, is at what cost do we do this
totally.
art form? Because, and I know for me, this is the first time I'm doing press, and we're working press lines, and the conversation that I'm having with myself ahead of time is already processing the grief of which press lines am I not going to make. But my team with me is also a team of amputees. So we all have this collective battery, and
Yeah,
we're all staying in a verbo. House rule number one is we don't punish ourselves for our disabled bodies.
totally.
So that's always something that I come back to personally, is how much of myself am I putting into this project? And you literally physically did. I don't know
Yeah.
why. I was like, I wonder if that's Daisy. I had a
That's
feeling,
awesome. Yeah,
and
it
I
was
was like, I
me.
didn't see it in the comment or in the credits, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to ask that question because
Yeah.
I had a good feeling, because I did listen to Jillian's podcast,
Mm,
Jillian Alana,
yeah,
and
of
I
course.
think that I think she either showed pictures on her page, or like had you visually described it, and I kind of knew. I don't remember what happened, but I was like, that is authentically a scar, because I myself have my own scars. You can't mask those in a certain type of way. It's very
No.
difficult. And that leads me to my final question, which
Yeah.
is, I love style, I love fashion. I work at QVC in adaptive fashion.
Yeah.
Does style and fashion have any influence from the way you have dressed in the past in order to deal with scarring? Or is that something you're just like, I'm going to dress the way I want to dress for the premiere, in general, period, etc.?
Yeah, I think it's been a journey in general, specifically. Also, I think for the premiere, like it's gonna be cold. That's something that we were thinking about a lot. Like when I was first planning my outfit, I was like, yes, I'm gonna do blazer, like scars out. And then our PR team was like, yeah, the red carpet might be outside. And I was like, no. So I yeah, I have two options for my outfit. I one is scars out, one is not, just to kind of feel it out on the day. I think the thing about Sundance right now is like it feels so big that like it would be a really good statement, but I think one that I have to feel 100% like
Yes.
wanting to stick to. Like
Yes, of course.
like because that's going to be like that could be on Getty Images forever, and like wow, what a beautiful powerful thing, but also like what a permanent thing. And I think
Yes.
I am pretty young, and I don't always give myself grace for that, but I think like being the person, like in terms of like transplant recipients, like a lot of the people that had transplants when I did, like aren't around.
Sure.
And just like like the feedback we've gotten with this film is like, wow, we've never seen anything like this. And it's sort of like, yeah, because it doesn't exist, there aren't really anybody at this
Uh,
point, right, to like super tell the story.
mhm.
um so I think in terms of style, like that weighs on me in a good way and in a big way, like just like if
Oh,
I'm gonna do it, like it's kind of a first, hypothetically.
100%. It's capturing
Yeah,
the fleeting beauty
yeah,
about this community. And you're right. There's a lot of people who are no longer with us that we do honor in these moments. And you being so young and already having a grasp on that is just so lovely to hear. But also, we deal with grief and aging a little bit more profoundly than other people our age. We have this
totally.
emotional maturity in that acceptance, right?
Yeah,
But the fact that you were already thinking of like, this is going to be the history of it, I'm thinking of how this is going to be instilled down the line. I want that to be a thing. And I'm somebody, I typically don't wear my prosthetic arm because I
mhm,
appreciate the way that my body
yeah.
is. And that's great to hear from you, that you're just like, no, I want to do it, even though the low is going to be 1 degree Fahrenheit.
Yeah, no, literally. I mean, I think I think the other side of it though is like I know how people are, and like I would rather have the film stand for itself and not
Yeah.
necessarily people look at me. Like, and I know that that's a whole nother thing. So I think in terms of style, yeah, it's been a journey. I think I we'll see what happens. We'll see. I have every intention to be kind of bolder about it, but when it comes down to it, we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see what
I try
happens
not
on
to
the
put too much
day. We
Yeah,
will see how we feel when we arrive with the atmospheric pressure on top of everything
yeah,
else, the physical, emotional pressure of this being one of the biggest indie film festivals in the world, low key,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Yeah, no
yeah.
big. And
No.
then we have to worry about street style,
Oh yeah, absolutely.
streetwear. Exactly. Well, I want to thank you so much for coming with me today. I appreciate you so much, Daisy. And any last things you want to share where people can find you? Anything else?
Yeah, totally. So find me on Instagram. My Instagram is Daisy Friedman underscore. And my website is just daisyfriedman.com. And also our premiere, I know tickets are kind of hard to come by right now, but our premiere is at the library theater at noon on Thursday. So if anyone can snag some last minute tickets, would be lovely.
And are they currently still available or did they sell out
So
yet?
not technically, but you can get on wait lists.
Oh, that's right. You can be in wait lists. So yeah,
Yeah.
this is our first year as well with dealing with tickets, and they're very kind of like, well, press can get in line. Press can. So we're waiting
Mhm.
to see which films and premieres we can actually physically get
Totally.
into. So we will see when we get there. But yours, I know I had a little bit of a conflict. So thank goodness that this was
Yeah.
something we were able to do.
Yeah.
Thank you so
Absolutely.
much, Daisy.
Thank you.
The producing and video editing for Disability Reality Podcast is done by Melanie Waldman. Sound engineering by Canadian and Silly Goose, Jack Thomas. Disability Reality is a SAG-AFTRA affiliated podcast.